Hi there, welcome to the third episode of Football Index Buzzwatch, where we take a look at three players who I'm suggesting to you to take a look at on Football Index, and I talk about why I think their value may rise in the near future. So without much further ado, let's get into the first selection. So the first player we're going to be looking at is Robert Skov, who's a 23-year-old attacker who plays for FC Copenhagen. He's Danish. He recently actually just got his first senior cap for the Danish national team, but he's also going to be going to the Under-21 European Championships. He is 23, but I tried to look at this to see that I'm not being an idiot, but the Danish national team put out their graphic for the call-ups, and he was there, and every website seems to point towards him going there. I don't know if I'm wrong in some way, but I think I'm right. He's 23, but going to the Under-21 European Championships, and if he goes, I think he'll be one of the key players to look out for. He had an incredible season, the one that just passed, a real breakout season, despite him being 23. He scored 29 goals in the Danish Superliga, which is a record. It's the record for a single player in a single season, and he really has put his name on the map as his team, Copenhagen, went on to win the league for the first time since 2017. And naturally, this has drawn quite a few suitors, most notably being Wolves, Watford and Tottenham. If he goes into the European Championships already with this transfer buzz, already with this bit of a notable name now, he really drive up a bit of interest in him from clubs all over Europe. I think if a striker's going into any league, I know the Danish Superliga isn't a top 5 league or anything like that, but it's not far off it. And if you're scoring 29 goals, then most teams in the top divisions of Europe must be having a look at Skov, and I know there has been a lot of transfer interest over the last few months. So with that, I think his price could see a considerable rise over the summer if he performs well for the Danish under-21s, and maybe Wolves, Tottenham or Watford or some other teams start to get a bit more aware of his talent and he potentially signs for one of them. So I think that'd be a good medium-term investment, and that's going to be the first player of the video. The second player we're going to look at is Dani Ceballos, who's a centre mid who plays for Real Madrid. He's 22 years old and is another one of these older players who's still going to the Under-21's European Championships. And once again, I'm seeing him as a medium-term investment. This video isn't going to have a short-term investment. I couldn't find a good one. I felt like a couple had already slipped through my fingers. Moussa Diaby, I was having a look at last week, but it kind of slipped through my fingers, and by the time this video is coming out and I'd looked at him, I think it was a little bit late. So we're just going to have two medium and a long-term investment, who I'll talk about in the next one, in the final one of the video. But yeah, Dani Ceballos, 22-year-old, very talented centre-mid, signed from Real Betis over Zidane's first period at Madrid in charge. He didn't really break into the team under Zidane, didn't really get a look in. It improved a little bit as their managers changed over last season with Lopetegui and whatnot. So he got a little bit more of a look in, but he's still not really nailed down that starter position at Madrid. However, he was the player of the tournament 2 years ago at the European Championships in 2017 as Spain won the competition. This was a big catalyst for him signing for Madrid from Real Betis. And I think if he goes this competition, plays well, again, kind of reminds Europe of how good he really is, he could really break into the Madrid team again as Zidane kind of prepares for a big season for him as a manager, as Madrid were slightly on the ropes at the end of last season. He has had some transfer interest, although I think he'll probably stay at Madrid. He's had some interest from West Ham United and Tottenham. Tottenham seem to be interested in bloody everyone recently. I don't know what it's up with him. But yeah, Tottenham and West Ham. So if that kind of drove up a little bit more interest, you could see him moving off to the Premier League. Like I said, I think he'll probably stay in Madrid. But if he goes and puts in some fantastic performances in this competition like he did in 2017, that'll garner a little bit more interest in him. And I think his price will rise as a result of that. And the final player of this video is another young one. He's a 21-year-old centre mid who a lot of people became quite knowledgeable of last season, or at least before a bad injury around March, and it's Newcastle United's Sean Longstaff. He really nailed down that centre mid position in the kind of medium part of last season, the season just gone for Newcastle. Newcastle really needed a good player there, as Jonjo Shelvey and Mo Diame and players like that kind of fell off the boil, but he went in there and put in some really good performances. I think he was even Player of the Month or nominated for Player of the Month in February, but unfortunately suffered quite a bad injury over March, which ended his season short. He was recently doing some interviews with the Newcastle United website, and he wants to be back for pre-season, which isn't too long away, maybe about a month and a half, depends what Newcastle want to do. And as a result of his injury, his price has dropped like a stone a little bit. He's gone down to 117 when I think its peak he was about 135. So I think this is a good time to invest in him. Like I said, he drew so much attention last season, and if he goes back into this season and hits the floor running, he's only 21 years old, so I think he should be able to bounce back from this injury not too badly, even though it is a crucial ligament injury. I could see him exceeding the 135 kind of max price that he hit last season, especially with players like Hayden, Shelvey and Diame potentially leaving the club. There is a position there for him to just go and nail down that centre mid position. It's not like he's behind a lot of guys if he does come back from his injury, or when he comes back from his injury. I've seen this as a good model to try to kind of do to make money on Football Index, with this kind of idea of players getting a bad injury and then just investing at the right turning point as their price starts to go up again. I saw this with Oxlade-Chamberlain when he got a really bad injury. People thought he was going to be out for about 2 years at one point. It wasn't that bad, but he was still out for a good couple of months, almost a year I think. And his price dropped quite a lot, but then as Liverpool did well again and Chamberlain came back into the team, that drove quite a good few media stories about him, and his price kind of soared again as a result. And this is something I'm going to apply on Sean Longstaff. I think he is a great player. I think there's nothing really holding him back from going on and being a great player for Newcastle again. I mean, he was linked with United at one point. It just does show the quality that he's got, and a lot of people saw that from him in the Premier League last year. Like I said, £1.17, and he's going to be the last selection of this video. A nice long-term investment. I think he'd be a really good player to look at. This is mad annoying because I'd filmed that bit on Sean Longstaff yesterday on Thursday, and today's Friday when I'm editing the video and stuff. And the first thing I saw when I went on Twitter and I went on Index and stuff was Sean Longstaff trending. And I was like, oh, God's sake, I've just bloody missed the train with this one. Yeah, so Sean Longstaff's gone up 11p in the last day because he's been linked with United, I think, again for £25 million. And yesterday there was just none of it. I was so ahead of the curve. I thought he was going to do so well. I thought this would be such a good shout, but yeah, I've been done because I didn't upload on the same day that I filmed it. So yeah, apologies for that, for being a wee bit late in it, but take it as a good sign that I've been I was accurate and I saw him. So if that's not a reason to subscribe, I don't know what is. And yeah, that wraps up this video, the third episode of Football Index Buzzwatch. We looked at some good players with Ceballos and Skov and Longstaff, three really talented players, even though they're slightly different in their ways. Skov was just tremendous last season. I remember seeing a lot written about him kind of around about February, when a lot of people who are more on like Twitter and stuff that do watch the Danish leagues a lot more than me, for instance, really just raving about the talent this guy's got. And with him setting a record in the Danish Superliga, I can't see why he wouldn't get a big money move. He's only 23. He's still got a lot of years to go to a club and kind of toughen up and maybe get more used to a higher league. But I don't see why he couldn't go on a transfer this season. Same goes for Ceballos and Longstaff, really. I don't see why they couldn't just go strength to strength this season. They're still young, they've got a lot of talent, and they're at good clubs for it. Ceballos probably has a wee bit more of a difficult task breaking into that centre midfield where there's Kroos and Modric, obviously. But if he really knuckles down, I don't think talent-wise he's that much worse than Modric or Kroos. It's probably just more consistency and things like that, which is a risk with younger players. But there's a lot of games in Real Madrid's season, and I think Zidane should put a little bit more faith in him. And with the Under-21 Championships, he could become quite the player. But that's going to wrap up this video here. You can find a link to my Twitter in the description. Please follow me there. It's where all the fun stuff happens, really. And there's also a link in the description where you can sign up to Football Index, and if you use that, you get a spare tenner. So, you know, win-win on a Thursday. Thanks a lot for watching, and subscribe and tune in for the next episode whenever that comes, probably early next week. But yeah, thank you very much, and I'll see you later.